The fleet did not arrive in fire. It arrived in certainty. 12 carrier-mass vessels slipped out of distortion near Jupiter's orbit, followed by ranks of cruisers and automated harvest platforms. Their hulls drank starlight. Their drives bent gravity with surgical precision. To them, Sol was another coordinate on a long list of corrections waiting to be made. Earth registered the arrival within seconds. Across the invading command network, data streamed in. Atmospheric composition, viable. Hydrosphere, abundant. Biosphere, dense. Industrial output, moderate. Defensive grid, primitive. Nuclear stockpiles detected. Orbital infrastructure, limited. Political structure, fragmented into competing nation-states. No unified planetary command signature. Classification, resource-bearing world. Indigenous species technologically emergent. Conquest probability, 99.7%. The High Strategist observed the blue planet through magnified projection. They detected our emergence, one of the analysts noted. Electromagnetic emissions increased. Of course they did, the strategist replied. They are not blind. They are simply unprepared. The first human transmission arrived before the fleet completed its gravitational deceleration. It was not chaotic. Not fragmented. Not layered in conflicting signals. It was singular, clean, and globally synchronized. A single voice, translated automatically through pattern recognition algorithms. You have entered the Sol system without invitation. You are advised to alter course immediately and leave. This is your only warning. No threats followed. No emotional spikes in tone. No bargaining. The command chamber registered mild amusement. They threaten us, one officer said. They issue a boundary statement. Another corrected. A social reflex. The strategist replayed the audio. The voice carried no tremor. No desperation markers. Heart rate estimation algorithms, based on microfluctuations in broadcast harmonics, suggested controlled respiration. Primitive species often perform dominance rituals when confronted, the strategist concluded. It stabilizes their internal hierarchy. A second wave of scans probed Earth's orbital perimeter. Defensive satellites tracked the fleet but did not fire. No long-range missile launches. No coordinated military mobilization visible from orbit. They are divided, the tactical AI confirmed. Multiple governments. Multiple languages. No singular command authority. Then their warning is meaningless, the strategist said. Protocol required demonstration. A precise, limited strike designed to shatter morale and accelerate surrender. A cruiser detached from formation and angled toward Earth's upper orbital ring, where a cluster of defense platforms circled in synchronized rotation. The humans had positioned them carefully: kinetic interceptors, laser arrays, surveillance modules. Impressive for a young species. Insufficient. The cruiser did not charge a visible weapon. It simply adjusted gravitational vectors. Space folded. The nearest defense platform compressed inward as if squeezed by an invisible fist. Structural integrity failed in under 2 seconds. The station collapsed into itself, metal screaming silently in vacuum before scattering as incandescent fragments. Debris burned in Earth's upper atmosphere like artificial meteors. Across the planet, billions watched the streaks of falling light. The alien fleet waited for panic. They monitored communications, news broadcasts, military channels, civilian networks. They expected fragmentation. Leadership disputes. Emergency negotiations. Instead, something else happened. Silence. Not absence of communication. Human systems were active, coordinated, but absence of hysteria. No desperate transmission directed at the fleet. No surrender signal. 37 seconds later, another message arrived. Same voice. Same calm cadence. You were warned. The command chamber stilled. The strategist leaned forward slightly. They repeat the statement. No escalation in tone, an analyst observed. No detectable fear markers. They lost orbital assets, another added. Casualties probable. And yet, the strategist said softly, no plea. The fleet advanced past Jupiter's orbit, engines humming through the vacuum like restrained thunder. Probes dispersed toward Mars and the asteroid belt. Automated mapping routines began calculating optimal invasion vectors. On Earth, military satellites adjusted their trajectories. Subsurface facilities sealed. Power grids shifted to protected redundancies. None of this was transmitted openly. The high strategist dismissed the human messages as ritualistic defiance. They posture to preserve internal cohesion, he concluded. Once their population understands resistance is futile, they will fracture. Still, he replayed the voice one more time. You have entered the Sol system without invitation. There had been no tremor. No strain. No hint of species-wide despair. Confidence without power was delusion. Confidence with preparation was something else entirely. The fleet moved deeper into the system. Behind them, the debris of the destroyed platform continued to burn across Earth's skies, brief, brilliant scars of light fading into darkness. The humans sent nothing further. Not anger. Not surrender. Just watchful silence. The fleet advanced beyond Jupiter with disciplined precision, spreading into layered formations designed for planetary subjugation. Automated harvest ships aligned behind the primary war vessels, their holds empty and waiting. Scout craft accelerated toward Mars, transmitting continuous telemetry back to the command core. Every projection indicated a swift campaign. Earth had not fired a single retaliatory shot. The high strategist interpreted restraint as paralysis. Long-range scans swept the inner system again. Human military craft remained in orbit, repositioning defensively but avoiding engagement range. Ground-based missile networks powered up briefly, then powered down. Fighter aircraft launched from several continents, only to return to hardened shelters. The invaders catalogued the movements as confusion masked as preparation. They are posturing for negotiation, a tactical officer suggested. Then they will request terms, the strategist replied. They have not. Mars fell under silent surveillance. The red planet hosted scattered human installations, mining colonies, research domes, thin atmosphere processors. No resistance met the scouts. Autonomous probes drifted through Martian orbit unchallenged, mapping mineral deposits and atmospheric composition. Then one of the probes vanished. It did not explode. No radiation bloom, no debris cloud, no energy spike. Its telemetry feed simply terminated mid-transmission. Signal interruption? The strategist asked. Negative. Hardware failure improbable. Probability of internal sabotage minimal. Environmental anomaly? None detected. A second probe was dispatched along a parallel trajectory. It disappeared at the exact same coordinate. The location was unremarkable, empty space between Mars and the asteroid belt. Mark it as unstable spatial interference, the strategist ordered. Adjust course. The fleet corrected slightly and continued inward. Across Earth, global communications were active but tightly controlled. Civilian broadcasts carried measured updates. No riots erupted. No mass evacuation signals flooded open channels. Instead, encrypted transmissions pulsed through quantum relays buried beneath mountain ranges and ocean floors. Power grids shifted into distributed configurations designed to survive orbital bombardment. Entire satellite constellations altered their flight paths and synchronized arcs, forming patterns too subtle for distant observation. The invaders detected increased energy usage in several continental regions. Industrial surge, an analyst noted. They are accelerating weapons production. Insufficient time to scale effectively, another replied. They lack the capacity. What the fleet could not see lay beyond conventional detection. In the asteroid belt, dormant installations awakened. Rock formations that had drifted untouched for decades split along engineered seams, revealing rail assemblies kilometers long. Reactor cores came online without emitting excess heat signatures. Targeting arrays aligned with quiet precision, tracking the invading formation without transmitting active signals. Deep beneath Earth's oceans, pressure-resistant structures disengaged safety locks. Launch tubes flooded and equalized. Hulls coated in adaptive materials separated from hidden docks and ascended slowly, masked by thermal gradients. Humanity had not been idle in the years before contact. The high strategist received another report. Gravitational anomalies detected near Saturn's orbit. Explain. Localized distortions inconsistent with natural sources. Possibly debris clusters. Insignificant, the strategist said. Maintain advance. Yet unease crept through lower command tiers. The absence of chaotic human behavior contradicted historical conquest models. Most species fragmented when confronted with superior force. They pleaded. They lashed out irrationally. They attempted suicidal charges. Earth did none of those. Instead, transmissions from the planet decreased. No new warnings. No insults. No propaganda. Just operational silence. A cruiser dispatched to investigate the Saturn anomaly altered course. It entered the region cautiously, scanning for mines or concealed craft. Its shields remained fully powered. Telemetry flowed normally for 12 seconds. Then the cruiser's feed cut without distortion. No explosion registered. No energy discharge. Mass readings dropped to 0. The command chamber froze. Impossible, one officer whispered. A vessel of that scale cannot vanish. Retrieve backup logs, the strategist ordered sharply. Data replayed in accelerated frames. The cruiser crossed an invisible threshold, and space around it warped, not outward, but inward, as though gravity itself had inverted. Then nothing. The strategist's mandibles tightened. They possess gravitational manipulation. Not at fleet scale. An analyst countered. Energy requirements exceed planetary output. Then they prepared it in advance, the strategist said. For the first time since entering Sol, probability calculations shifted. Conquest likelihood adjusted from 99.7% to 91.3%. Still decisive. Still overwhelming. Yet something fundamental no longer aligned with expectation. Earth remained silent. Not broken. Not begging. Waiting. And the fleet, confident in its supremacy, continued drifting deeper into a system that felt increasingly less empty than it had appeared. The fleet crossed the inner boundary of the asteroid belt in tight formation, shields layered and weapons arrays primed. Tactical doctrine dictated overwhelming force upon entry into contested space. Yet no visible defense grid engaged them. No missile swarms rose to meet their hulls. No energy signatures flared from hidden platforms. Then the asteroids moved. At first it registered as gravitational drift. Several medium-mass rocks shifted trajectories simultaneously, subtle course corrections that aligned them with precise intercept vectors. The fleet's predictive algorithms recalculated and dismissed the motion as natural instability, until the rocks accelerated. Mass drivers buried within hollowed cores ignited without visible exhaust. The asteroids transformed into kinetic spears traveling at catastrophic velocity. There were no glowing beams to track, no plasma trails to anticipate. Only silent, relativistic stone. The first cruiser was split along its central spine before its shield matrix compensated. Impact energy converted armored plating into vapor. The second vessel rotated defensively, intercepting one projectile with a shield flare, only to be pierced by 3 more from divergent angles. Fleet comms erupted with impact reports. Ambush confirmed. A tactical officer transmitted. The strategist issued immediate counterfire. Energy lances carved through dozens of surrounding asteroids, shattering them into incandescent debris. But each destroyed rock revealed reinforced launch cavities beneath, rail systems embedded like skeletal frameworks. The belt had been engineered into a distributed weapons platform. More projectiles launched. Human targeting was disciplined. They did not saturate randomly. They selected propulsion cores, shield emitters, command relays. Ships were not merely damaged, they were disabled with surgical efficiency. Source identification? The strategist demanded. No active emission signatures detected. Launch platforms are cold running. A new anomaly surged across the fleet network. Communication latency spiked. Long-range FTL relays failed to establish stable links. Quantum entanglement channels returned corrupted data packets. They are jamming us, an analyst reported, voice edged with strain. Non-electromagnetic interference. Isolation settled over the armada. The fleet could no longer coordinate with outer system reserves. They were sealed inside Sol. Then the human transmission arrived. It did not override their channels. It appeared within them, synchronized across encrypted bands as if invited. You entered our territory willingly. The same calm voice. No triumph. No anger. You were given the opportunity to leave. Across the formation, human vessels emerged from concealment. They were not massive like the invader carriers. They were lean, angular constructs coated in adaptive surfaces that bled heat into background radiation. Their engines emitted minimal flare, relying on momentum and calculated bursts rather than sustained thrust. Swarms of smaller craft accompanied them, each carrying compact kinetic payloads. The humans did not advance recklessly. They exploited momentum. Disabled alien ships became obstacles, drifting hulks that disrupted formation cohesion. Additional asteroid strikes forced the fleet inward, deeper into the belt's densest region. Regroup beyond the belt, a senior commander urged. Negative. Navigation responded. Exit vectors obstructed. Gravitational distortions flared at the periphery. Fields previously undetected activated in synchronized sequence, warping local spacetime geometry. Escape corridors bent unpredictably, turning calculated retreats into collision risks. The strategist recalculated probabilities again. Conquest likelihood, 63%. Survival likelihood, declining. Energy cannons from the flagship obliterated a human destroyer, scattering its fragments across vacuum. No hesitation followed from the remaining vessels. They adjusted patterns, compensating instantly for the loss. They sacrifice assets without hesitation, an officer murmured. They anticipated losses, the strategist replied. This engagement was modeled. A carrier attempted to charge its primary annihilation array. Before the weapon reached full yield, a coordinated volley of tungsten projectiles struck its power conduits at relativistic speeds. The blast that followed consumed the carrier from within, tearing a luminous wound through the fleet's center. Panic signals rippled across secondary channels, emotional spikes that the command corps struggled to suppress. The human voice returned once more. We do not seek your extinction. Another cruiser ruptured under crossfire. But we will not permit occupation. The fleet's once imposing formation had collapsed into fragmented clusters, each fighting independently under degraded communication. Ships designed for intimidation and rapid planetary suppression now maneuvered desperately within a maze of weaponized stone and invisible gravitational traps. For the first time in generations, the high strategist understood a fundamental miscalculation. Earth had never been reacting. Earth had been positioning. And the fleet, convinced of inevitable victory, had flown directly into a battlefield prepared decades in advance. The invading civilization had risen through domination. Their history was written in annexations and compliance. Evolution on their homeworld rewarded hierarchy, strength ensured order, and order ensured survival. Every rival species they encountered eventually bowed or was erased. Resistance was brief. Defiance was emotional. Fear fractured opposition long before fleets arrived. Conquest, to them, was a law of nature. Humanity had evolved differently. Conflict had never unified humans by default. They argued, competed, divided themselves along borders and beliefs. Yet when confronted by an external threat, something older than politics activated. Tribal lines blurred. Economic rivalries paused. Military command structures synchronized without surrendering autonomy. No single decapitation strike could cripple them because authority was distributed by design. The strategist observed battle data in widening disbelief. Human vessels operated in semi-independent clusters, executing localized objectives without waiting for central directives. When one command node was destroyed, Adjacent units adapted instantly. There was no cascading collapse. Their flexibility resembled biological systems more than rigid fleets. They do not fight for dominance, a surviving analyst transmitted through fragmented comms. They fight for continuation. That distinction proved decisive. Another human strike disabled the flagship's primary shield lattice. Secondary layers held, but at reduced efficiency. The strategist considered deploying a planet-killer payload, an escalation that would sterilize Earth entirely. It would end resistance at the cost of potential resources. He hesitated. Sensors indicated millions of small human craft mobilizing near Earth's orbit. Civilian transports escorted by warships moved towards subterranean and lunar shelters. Infrastructure had been redistributed months prior. Key populations were already secured beneath planetary crust and ocean depths. Earth had anticipated orbital bombardment and minimized vulnerability. They prepared evacuation contingencies before our arrival, the analyst said. Pre-contact paranoia, the strategist replied, though the word felt insufficient. Human history revealed constant internal war. Yet instead of collapsing under it, they had refined it. Asymmetric tactics, redundant supply chains, rapid industrial conversion from civilian to military output, psychological resilience forged through centuries of crisis. The flagship shuddered as kinetic impacts struck its dorsal hull. Human targeting focused relentlessly on propulsion systems, not crew compartments. They were disabling, not slaughtering. A channel opened again. "We will accept your withdrawal." The voice remained controlled, almost clinical. "Cease hostile action. Power down weapons. You will be permitted to exit Sol under escort." An officer snarled. "They presume authority. They demonstrate it," the strategist corrected. He initiated a counteroffensive burst, unleashing concentrated fire that obliterated two approaching human frigates. Their wreckage dispersed without altering surrounding formations. Replacement units filled the gap within seconds. No retreat. No fury-driven charge. Just measured continuation. "They absorbed loss without destabilization," the analyst whispered. "Because they anticipated loss," the strategist answered. A coordinated human maneuver followed. Gravitational distortions previously confining the fleet intensified, forcing alien vessels into tighter proximity. From concealed vectors, boarding craft launched, compact, armored capsules propelled by kinetic acceleration rather than energy signatures. The strategist's command interface lit with breach alerts. Sections of the flagship reported hull penetration. Internal defense drones engaged immediately, corridors filling with controlled bursts of plasma. Yet the human boarding teams advanced methodically, targeting engineering hubs and weapon relays instead of life support cores. "They are not attempting extermination," an officer realized. "They are enforcing surrender," the strategist said. On their homeworld, surrender had always meant enslavement or extinction. Here, the opposing species offered exit. Another message cut through the chaos. "We warned you because we prefer peace." Internal sensors registered the loss of the flagship's primary reactor stabilization array. Systems cascaded into fail-safe mode. Weapons powered down automatically to prevent catastrophic overload. "We fight because survival requires it." Human troops secured engineering control and transmitted override commands into the alien network, disabling offensive capabilities fleet-wide through synchronized code infiltration. It was not brute force. It was precision exploitation of exposed architecture. The strategist evaluated the remaining variables. Conquest probability, negligible. Fleet survival probability under continued resistance, minimal. He issued the order few of his kind had ever spoken. "Cease fire. Prepare compliance protocols." Across the fractured battlefield, alien weapons dimmed. Human ships maintained targeting locks but did not press advantage. Boarding units secured command nodes without unnecessary violence. The final human transmission arrived, steady and without triumph. "We did not seek this war." Through cracked viewport plating, the strategist observed Earth in the distance, blue, intact, guarded. "But we will always finish one." For the first time in his career, the strategist understood that dominance was not the same as endurance. And humanity possessed the latter in excess. The firing stopped, but tension did not dissipate immediately. Human targeting arrays remained locked on every alien vessel until full weapon shutdown was verified. Reactor cores aboard the surviving invader ships were forced into controlled idle states under monitored supervision. Escape vectors were calculated and transmitted, narrow corridors through gravitational distortions that had once trapped them. Human fleets repositioned into escort formation, not pursuit. Wreckage drifted in slow arcs across the asteroid belt. Twisted metal, ruptured hull segments, fragments of vessels that had entered Sol with certainty. Recovery drones moved through the debris field, cataloging salvage, retrieving black box data, ensuring no hidden weapons remained active. The battlefield was treated not as a trophy site, but as a containment zone. On Earth, there were no parades. Emergency broadcasts shifted to stabilization briefings. Casualty numbers were released with precision, not dramatization. Memorial networks activated across continents. Cities dimmed their skylines for a full planetary rotation and silent recognition of those lost in orbit and on remote installations. Humanity did not celebrate survival, it acknowledged cost. The alien fleet began its withdrawal under strict parameters. Each ship was required to broadcast continuous telemetry while exiting the system. Human observers tracked them until they crossed the outer boundary near Neptune, beyond the range of concealed defensive arrays. Before the final cruiser departed, a last transmission request was sent to Earth's unified command channel. The High Strategist's voice, stripped of earlier certainty, delivered a concise statement. Your species was misclassified. That error will be corrected. The response was brief. See that it is. No threats followed. No demands for tribute. No territorial claims beyond Sol. Beyond the system, shockwaves moved faster than any ship. The defeated Armada had been a regional hegemon, a power that had subdued multiple civilizations with minimal resistance. News of its failure spread through encrypted trade routes and diplomatic relays. Observers dissected sensor logs and combat data. Analysts studied the engagement patterns. The conclusions unsettled them. Humanity had not relied on overwhelming numerical superiority. It had relied on preparation, distributed command, and weaponized environment. It had tolerated initial losses without destabilizing. It had offered withdrawal before annihilation. Classification databases across nearby sectors updated rapidly. Humanity, high-risk defensive species. Humanity, capable of strategic patience. Humanity, polite but lethal. Exploration probes approaching Sol altered course preemptively. Trade emissaries began transmitting cautious inquiries rather than reconnaissance scans. The message was understood without additional demonstration: the solar system was not unguarded territory. On Earth, reconstruction accelerated quietly. Orbital platforms were replaced with improved iterations, less visible and more resilient. Asteroid installations returned to dormant configurations, indistinguishable from natural rock once more. Subsurface shipyards continued limited production cycles, not for expansion, but for readiness. Human leadership convened privately to assess the broader implications. They understood the victory had not made them invincible. It had made them visible. Strength deterred aggression, but it also invited scrutiny. The guiding principle remained unchanged. Prepare without provoking. A small exploratory probe from a distant civilization eventually entered the edge of the system years later. Its sensors scanned cautiously, transmitting identification codes before crossing predefined boundaries. An automated channel responded immediately. This is humanity. You are approaching sovereign space. The probe halted. We welcome peaceful contact. Transmit your intent. There was no hostility in the tone. No concealed threat. Just clarity. Across the galaxy, archived combat footage from the failed invasion circulated among strategic councils. Scholars noted the defining moment was not the ambush within the asteroid belt. It was the initial warning. Humanity had drawn a line before firing a single shot. They had extended the option to leave. The invaders had ignored it. In quiet observatories overlooking distant stars, diplomats recalibrated their approach toward the blue planet and Sol. It was not to be provoked casually. Not because it sought conquest, but because it did not yield. Within Earth's defense networks, a final standing transmission remained encoded into the outer system beacons, ready to activate for any future arrival. We prefer peace. Pause. But we prepare for war. The message did not change. It did not need to. And this time, the galaxy listened,